November heading into December is sure to be a period dominated by the web-swinging action of Marvel's Wallcrawler. Because while Square Enix's Games as a Service superhero simulator is soon set to see his arrival, there's a high possibility that moviegoers will be treated to not one, not two, but potentially 3 different Spider-Men. We live in hope. As mentioned though, the still struggling Marvel's Avengers on PlayStation 4 and 5 will have to make do with just one. And this leads me to question, can Spider-Man save Marvel's Avengers? Hi everyone, it's Aaron from Push Square here, and in anticipation of the webhead's upcoming arrival, I've been dipping back into Marvel's Avengers. I'd not checked the game out since I played the single-player campaign at launch, so I was excited to see what exactly had changed. This attempt to live serviceify Earth's mightiest heroes was obviously met with mixed reception when it first released last year, to the point, you would have noticed, that it didn't secure a place on our most recent list of the 10 best PS4 superhero games, the last video we posted on Friday. Do check it out. This is largely a result of developer Crystal Dynamics delivering countless mixed messages in the lead up to launch and failing to successfully communicate what type of game Marvel's Avengers actually was. It was a bit of a disappointment, therefore, to discover that in the attempts to keep its player base engaged, Marvel's Avengers turned out to be a bit of a grind. Costumes had to be purchased either using real-life or in-game currency and resources you've built up, and this alone was enough to keep me away from playing for the longest time. A shame considering that the core act of bashing bots as your favourite heroes could be quite fun. So much so that Push Square's very own Sammy stands by the fact that Marvel's Avengers can at times be a pretty decent game. Well, as mentioned, Spider-Man is set to swing his way into the game very soon, as early as November 30th, exclusively on PlayStation 4 and 5. And regardless of your thoughts on Marvel's Avengers, Spider-Man has a very good track record so far on Sony's platform, and the most recent trailer at least appears to have nailed the character in terms of his charm and attitude. The question therein lies, is Spider-Man alone enough to warrant booting the game back up? Well, I think the very fact that I've reinstalled the game again myself speaks volumes that, yes, the PlayStation audience will at least want to check it out. Not just because Spider-Man is by far the most beloved Marvel character out there, but because, from what I've played just over this past weekend, Crystal Dynamics has done a fairly decent job of introducing each new character with a short but sweet adventure-filled new chapter known as Operations. As mentioned earlier, I hadn't loaded up Marvel's Avengers for well over a year now, since it first launched. So after the initial pain of downloading and installing the PS5 version, only to realise that I then needed to install the PS4 version to, quote, migrate my save, after I already downloaded my original PS4 save from the cloud, nothing is ever that simple, is it? I got to work checking out the Avengers content that I'd missed. Beginning with Kate Bishop, I have to say there is a lot you need to do just to get to the simple case of starting up the story Operations content. The war table is still an absolute mess in my opinion, and it basically reminded me that for as much as I try to just treat Marvel's Avengers solely as a single player game, you're never going to really be able to get away from all of the live service trimmings. Teething issues aside, Kate Bishop's bite-sized campaign story was indeed a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the new dynamic using a bow brought to combat, even if I was still being subjected to the act of killing wave upon wave of generic aimbots. Iron Man had previously been my hero of choice since he's by far the most mobile, but that said, playing as Kate I didn't miss the ability to fly up in the air too much, largely due to Crystal Dynamics' clever genius in giving her a short-range teleport. You have to imagine that Spider-Man will operate very similarly due to his inherent web-slinging nature. I believe it's still unclear if swinging around as Spider-Man will go the route of having his webs actually latch onto buildings, or if they're just going to go the classic route of having them shoot up into the sky and pretend to latch onto something. I know it might annoy some people, but I'm quite hesitant to go with the former because in terms of the open environments featured in Marvel's Avengers, I feel like just being able to shoot around anywhere is the best case scenario. The Kate Bishop hero event didn't end up being that long, a little under 2 hours, which is, disappointing. That's why, rather than judge the Spider-Man content's potential on this alone, I was excited to dip into Marvel's Avengers War for Wakanda Operation as the game's most recent attempt at introducing a new character. Imagine my surprise to see then that his served as a much better character introduction than the one given to Kate Bishop. I'll hold my hands up and admit that I skipped over Hawkeye's Future Imperfect because I was worried about, archery fatigue. Luckily, this turned out to be a good idea, because War for Wakanda definitely opens with more of a bang, addressing almost all of my main issues with the Kate Bishop stuff by placing you into T'Challa's shoes instantly, and letting you wreck shop by giving you a fun little opening mission where you get to battle Claw's minions and even Crossbones in a mini-boss fight. I haven't had time to finish it yet, but from what I understand, this is also a much meatier expansion than the two previous operations, which has rendered me more optimistic for Spider-Man's incoming arrival this November 30th for sure. If anything, it made me a little sad at the thought of the single-player experience Marvel's Avengers could have ended up being, something more akin to the recent Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy if it didn't get greedy in demanding players' time, and instead focused on fun set pieces. Now, I haven't finished it yet, so the War for Wakanda expansion may end up falling off a cliff, but it did instill hope in me that the new Spider-Man content might be able to hold my attention, to the point that I've actually got it installed and I intend to keep it that way for now, and that just wasn't the case before. For as zippy as War for Wakanda's introduction is, however, it still suffers from a lot of my issues with the base game's Marvel Avengers campaign. Namely, the constant dipping into menus so as to assign skill points and equip new armour, the excessively open environments which can be a pain to roam, but most annoying are the enemy sponges. Just how many hits does Black Panther need to unleash to take down a simple robot spider? Maybe I'm just being a bit picky here, but it's in these instances where it's hard to feel like the superhero. I've resigned to the fact that this is just another side effect of Marvel's Avengers needing to be primarily an online-driven platform, which is a shame. That said, I really did enjoy my short time playing War for Wakanda, to the point that I actually intend to see it through to the very end, something I wasn't so sure about with Kate Bishop, as short as it ended up being. It's meant to last for around 8 hours from what I can see, which, is a sizable chunk of free add-on content. So the question remains, can Spider-Man save Marvel's Avengers? It's no secret that the game has struggled to find its audience, almost from the very get-go when it launched in September of last year. This sentiment was recently reinforced when Square Enix boss Tosuke Matsuda slyly suggested that Crystal Dynamics may have been the wrong developer to tackle the ambitious games-as-a-service model for Marvel's Avengers. This seemed to be a bit harsh considering that Square Enix ultimately decides which team works on what. Plus, if anything, it's a testament to Crystal Dynamics that they've managed to create something as fun as War for Wakanda given the established framework they were forced to work with. That's why Spider-Man represents a second chance to showcase Marvel's Avengers in a better light. PlayStation players may still be forced to contend with in-game currencies, walled-off costume unlocks and tedious beatdown combat, but with the Spider-Man hype currently reaching unprecedented levels, I know I'm excited to see what the With Great Power hero event has to offer. Black Panther may have been cool, but Spider-Man's character is infused with such a big sense of fun. If the operation's runtime can match that of War for Wakanda's, we could be in for quite the adventure. Who doesn't love Spider-Man? His star power alone is surely enough to convince some PlayStation players to dip back into Marvel's Avengers. Plus, the cinematic trailer released last week to debut Spider-Man did a pretty good job at displaying the camaraderie he might share with the rest of the Avengers team, even though it's not quite exactly the version of Spider-Man that Insomniac have been doing such a great job with. Let's not forget that this one, and all its past updates, have been released for free, so there really is nothing to lose. And in addition to Spider-Man swinging in, November 30th's update will also see Marvel's Avengers blessed with the game's first proper raid, Discordant Sound, a level cap increase from 150 to 175, and a new gear upgrade system, hopefully a much improved one. Spider-Man may have arrived a bit late to appeal to the general audience, but from the little I've played since jumping back in, coupled with my inherent love for the character, the stage is very much set for Spider-Man to potentially save Avengers, if only for just a little bit. So there you have it guys, in terms of my thoughts about how Spider-Man is set to impact Marvel's Avengers and potentially save the platform and live service experience from being something greater. But what are your thoughts? Do you intend on downloading the game? Are you excited to sling some webs as Spider-Man? Be sure to let me know in the comments section below. And when you've done that, be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it and consider subscribing to the Push Square YouTube channel for everything else PlayStation related. Until next time, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one.